All right. Hey, man, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Pretty all right. You're in Utah. Why are you in Utah?
Mm. Long story short, my first marriage, uh, my first wife is from here, and we have a 10-year-old together. And she lived in Florida with me for a decade, where I'm from, but she wanted to come home when our marriage kind of started to go south. So I've been here like 8 or 9 years. So since he was a little baby. So yeah, I just because I have a kid here basically, and then I remarried here and got some acreage here, and you know, the
Sure.
rest is the rest is a boring history lesson.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
it's really cool to talk to you. It's growing up as I'm only like I say only I'm 32, and so it's really cool to talk to a band that was so huge in my childhood.
Yeah,
And not
that's
childhood.
awesome.
That sounds weird, but like going to Warped Tour and seeing you guys, and
All of our childhood. Yeah.
yeah, and it's just really cool to see also that you guys still kick so much ass.
You know, thanks for saying that. We're really lucky, Um, somehow we continue to do it, and I think it's just for the sheer love of it. Do you know what I mean? Like I think that we just love it so much. We love doing it that, that maybe it's kept us young and kept us whatever the industry term relevant is, you know? So,
Sure.
yeah, I think for us we just try to keep pushing with our art. I think that's the biggest thing with any band or solo artist or whatever is if you keep pushing, you know, you can't make the same thing over and over again, right? I think when you make the same thing over and over again, you kind of get pigeonholed as that legacy act and we never wanted that. We never wanted to make the same thing twice, so we just pushed, you know, um, which has its downs in some respect too, but also I think it's kept us, you know, we never we never wanted to be like the biggest band in the world. That was never the goal. Which I think with a lot of artists, the goal is like we want to be the Foo Fighters, or which is great. I think that's fucking awesome. But for us, we really just wanted to like do our craft and be able to make a living doing it. So we've been really lucky in that respect. So yeah, man.
Um, One thing that I noticed with this album, and I don't know if it was like a conscious decision or if it's just how the art was taking, the music was taking you, but it sounded like you guys really worked on like your uh, the vocals themselves, being able to be more dynamic with them. Was that something that you and Spencer worked on really hard, or
Yeah, I don't,
what was
I
that?
don't, I don't think that like I don't know. I don't know that I've ever like went to work on any music and been like, okay, this is the goal today. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't like, especially a goal like that. It's never like, let's make it more cohesive or more
Yeah,
dynamic or whatever. Like, it's just not something you talk about, you know?
sure.
Again, like I was saying before, we just try to grow with every album, and it should get better every time, right? Like, we should push and get better every time. You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Right on. Yeah, it's just it was it just sounded like there's a lot of you when you're doing the music, and it was just a really cool sound. But Voyage's been out for what, about a week now, and I've listened to it a ton. Take me through the theme of the album and what it all had.
Um,
um what inspired you to make the album that you guys did?
um, I think that these days, like, there's nothing new under the sun, right? And I feel like we all live through our phones. Everybody, like, even the people that are like, I'm like the most honest one, or like, I'm not really into social media. Everyone sort of doom scrolls. You know what I mean? Like, it's like you look at other people's stuff and it's like a whole thing and blah, blah, blah. And so for us, like, I feel like sorry, my manager keeps texting me. So sorry, through these times and these days, everyone lives through their phone. Do you know what I mean? And my biggest thing, I think, is calling action to that we all do it. So the term voyeurist doesn't, it's not a word. Like you can look in the dictionary and the the word voyeurist isn't a word. To be a voyeur is how you would use it. Like that guy's a voyeur, right? That's how you would say it. So for us, it was sort of about like everything's gross, you know, or fake good. Like there's never like the reality of anything on the internet. So this was sort of like a call to that. You know what I mean? Like how do we see the world? You know, and what's real and what isn't? Because you never really know. You know, so I think lyrically, we don't really do like we're not gonna write like Tommy or The Wall. You know, like it's just not really our it's not Spencer and I's sort of style. So this is like little vignettes of that. You know, like this is really real right now. Like what you're reading and what you're singing along to is like literal, and then some of it's not literal at all. You know, so that's how the lyrics sort of tie in. But I think for us, we just wanted to set out to make something that was, you know, our last record was pretty like accessible, you know, like commercially accessible. Um, and it wasn't written accessible. It's just where we were at the time, you know. And with this one, like it's like a meandering thing, so it feels sort of like this fever dream, sort of alternated reality thing. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, I think that we all live through our phones and we all live in this fake reality. So you know, we sort of wanted this album to feel that way. Does that make sense? You know,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
you look at somebody's Instagram and you're like, that looks awesome. Like I want to do that, but secretly, like you would never congratulate them. Like you know you climbed you know the bank at Lake Havasu and swam to the bottom. You would never be like, for the most part, some people are good-hearted people, truly. And be like, good for you. That's freaking awesome. But for the most part, you'll look at it and you'd be like, oh. And then you'd like, do you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
it's a really strange thing. Like, so it's just that whole thing, you know. We got really into a television show at the time called Dark. I don't know if you've seen it. It's on Netflix, but it's a
Is that
German.
the German one, right? With that
Yeah,
kid that goes missing and
it's
stuff.
crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You don't know what's real and what's not. So we were actually the working title for the song Cycle was actually called Dark. Um, so it's just sort of that thing, you know, everything these days, you don't know what's real and what isn't. And that was, you know, we did a live stream called Digital Ghost um, a few weeks before the record came out where we played the whole thing in its entirety. And it was pre-filmed and, but in some of it, like we're playing and then some of it we're playing, but you don't see us playing. It's like Spencer standing in an empty room. And that's been sort of the thing, you know, with the whole Voyage thing is what's real and what isn't. And I don't think we really want people to know. You know, lyrically, I don't want to tell you like this song is about X or Y, and I will if you ask, but it's like I think it sort of takes some of the mystique away, you know what I mean?
For sure. Yeah. Why do you think people are drawn to the like let's say like the Instagram things where, you know, we see all this stuff that like, oh, that looks cool, but like behind that person's back, I'm never gonna say why are human beings drawn to that type of thing, do you think?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's like you know, like I've heard so many people say this on so many I like consume a ton of podcasts because when you make music all the time, I have a day job making music too. So like when you make music all the time, it's like exhausting to listen to it sometimes. Does that make sense? So like
No, I live in radio, so I know exactly what you're talking
yeah.
about.
I mean, on the weekends I listen to music. It's weird. I have like 1,000 vinyl in my living room, and
Hmm.
like on the weekends we listen to music, but through the week I don't listen to music at all because every day, you know, I get off the phone with you and I have a Zoom session making a song with someone. So it's like I don't get a break from it. So I listen to a ton of podcasts, and I heard this on a podcast, and I feel like an ass for like not knowing what podcast is and giving credit. But for billions of years or however long, people lived in tribes, right? Like or like groups, whatever you want to call it, and you didn't know what was going on outside of that tribe, you know. Or I was reading a book about like a family's crossing of the states to move west, you know, to work in agriculture, and it was like it could take months. You know, people weren't connected. You know what I'm saying? And I think now, if something isn't connected, you know, via the internet, like people don't see what other people are doing, it isn't real. But somewhere tonight in some tiny town, somewhere in the world, there's a band playing that's like a hot shit band that's better than any band. And no one will ever know. You know, it's like the whole if the tree falls in the forest doesn't make a sound, like there's no one to hear it, doesn't make a sound. We don't know. You know what I mean? So I really believe it's that. I think it's like a deep need and and this is serious for radio, but who gives it, you know, like it's a deep need and a deep desire for people to be connected. So I
Yeah.
think it begins with a good place. That's why people live through their phones. It begins at its heart and its nexus in a place that people just want to be known, you know? Like everybody just wants to be known. You know what I'm saying?
I
So,
totally do.
and I think that that's what it is. And then it just has grown and it gets perverted, like anything gets perverted. You know what I
It
mean? Like,
it seems like this world, like anytime you find something that is like, this is good. Now, how do we exploit it until we've made everything that we can out of it? And now it's just this like husk of a remnant of what once was, like
I mean,
everything is just squeezed dry.
a lot of music is like that, you know?
Hmm.
Like I think when an artist is found and they take off and they blow up, I literally think it happens because it's fresh and it's new and it's naked and real. You know, but then, rock music is a great example of that. Over the years, it's become more and more formulaic, and in the last few years, people have begun to break the formula, which is why you see the massive resurgence in guitar music.
Yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah, absolutely. It's refreshing when, and I'm a music director here, so I get to hear a lot of music all the time from bands all over, and it is really refreshing to see. I hope I didn't freeze. I did. Okay, I'm here. I'm still here. Okay. But it's just like it's
I got
incredible
you.
to
You did for a
okay.
quick second.
Okay, cool. Um it's good to see that like music like in with the 6 strings, 7 strings, 8 strings, whatever you're playing, like it's almost like an infinite amount of like songs can be made, and they move so far away from the guitar and like what you can do with that, to like just pushing buttons and stuff. And now it's like everything it's kind of coming back. So it's almost like the art is rebelling against the technology of the world in a
Finally,
sense. Yeah.
finally, I I'm just, so my day job is I'm a songwriter for a publishing company, right? So I write songs for other artists, and it's everything from punk rock to Thomas Rhett. You know what I mean? It's across the gamut. And I spent a long time as a writer and a producer, like not using guitars. It was like even with rock music, big heavy synths in the choruses and like all that stuff. And now artists that I wrote with not 1 year ago or at the beginning of the lockdown on Zoom, I started traveling to write again in the last year, but in 2020, like it was like tracks, 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 synth, synth, synth. And then in the last year, those same artists are coming to me and they're like, "Do you have a riff?" And I'm like, "A what?" They're like, "A riff, like a riff." And I'm like, Yeah, but for you?" I mean, this funny. I had a DJ the other day who I've written with before, and she's a popular ass DJ, like big DJ. And she's like, "Do you have a riff?" And I was taken aback by it. I was like, "For you?" And I think that comes from, I honestly think that it comes from like the garage band days. Like there was a feeling when you got with your friends. I started playing with my friends who I'm still in a band with now in the late 90s when we were children. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it was a feeling we had. Like it's a strangest thing because I think about like our last two records because it had been a decade since we made a record when we made Erase Me. Like we all produce and make music now. So like we just took like finished songs in and like redid them. You know what I mean? Or like we made stuff together and like but when we like put out our biggest albums at the beginning, like we remembered all that stuff from playing it like in a storage unit, you know?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's weird that that translated to like real success in the music industry. You know what I mean? So I think that people want that feeling again. And obviously, that's going to get synthesized too. It's cyclical, but I think for a long time, the world's been waiting on Nirvana again. Because if you look at the era when Nevermind happened, it's interesting because it was all so plastic then, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you can make the Guns N' Roses comment that wasn't. I love Guns N' Roses, so, but like, 80s hair, makeup, fashion, singing as high as you can, like that happened again in rock music, and then you see bands come along and just like break that mold, a la Nirvana. I don't think we've had the Nirvana moment again yet, but um, and I don't know who it's going to be, but it'll be fun. It's fun to watch, So I do think you're right. I think that you're seeing that because people want a shot of something real. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Do you guys did the 3 albums live, the live stream, and a lot of bands did that. Do you think that you guys doing that, and then other bands kind of like doing their own like in lockdown
Yeah.
performance type of thing, kind of made that like really jogged the world's memory of like, hey, you know, maybe we can sit in this storage unit and play some music that's loud as shit, and like
Yeah.
we can do that.
It was so ours was so hard because Digital Ghost was pre-recorded, the one for Voyagist, and it had to be because we wanted all the dancers and the weird thing. But those three we did during quarantine were true live. Like as you were watching it, it was happening, and it was fucking stressful, dude. Like, do not recommend. 10 out of 10. Um, but I think what it did for us, truly, I think it made us a better band. You know, like I think that I mean, we're a live band. That's what we do. You know,
Mhm.
like that's like I told you, we used to, would define the great line, they're only chasing safety. Like we remembered those songs by memory and went and recorded them. Even Lost in the Sound of Separation. Like we weren't yet producing as individuals. So there was no demos really, other than like some shit demos that Tim might have made on GarageBand or something. You know, there's nothing. Um,
Mhm.
so if it inspired people to go do that, I'm all to me, anything that inspires something real, like I'm here, like I'm here for it. And if I get to be a part of it, um, I'm even more here for it. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
like that's kind of how I see everything, in terms of my career and art and music is like if you can inspire somebody to do something, it's a beautiful thing, because it's never going to be exactly the same. Even if you plagiarize someone's art, like blatantly, look at a painting or something and paint the same thing, it'll never be the same. So I look at it like that. If people are inspired by something that we've done, I'm just grateful, especially 20 years in for anyone to give a shit is huge. Um, and be inspired is even bigger. So that's just sort of how I look at it. I can't see it any other way. I think that you either like get super big headed and like full of yourself or you're just thankful, and I think that in my almost 40s, I've chosen, the latter just to be thankful. So,
I
yeah.
think it's great for your mental health to do that as well. And you know, the people around you, you know, if you're grateful for where you are in the world, that's it's a good place to be. And but this year you guys are going to be going out on tour. Spirit
Yeah,
Box, and you
here
just
in the
announced the other couple of bands, but yeah,
yeah, yeah, here in I think I'm gonna look at the calendar. First show's on the 18th.
of
Um,
February.
yeah,
Damn.
yeah. I'm just looking at my Delta app here. Yeah.
Yeah.
I leave on the 13th for pre-production.
Sweet.
Um,
Are you guys gonna go big with the stage performance, like light or all the screens, the lights? What are we
we
looking
always
for?
do something. Um,
Yeah.
in our 2018-19 headlining tour, we relied heavily on video. Um, I don't know if you caught any of those dates, but it was heavy video. This one's not going to be as heavy of video. There is a video component, but it's a little different. Um, it's more moving pieces and parts. So yeah, it's going to be pretty big, man. It's a shame, that Every Time I Die broke up. And it was weird timing because everyone's headed back out on tour now. You know what I mean? Um, so we had not much time to book replacement bands. And Every Time I Die broke up last weekend,
Right.
so it
That
was
was a shockwave still going.
20 years in, and I don't know anything about it if I'm being honest. So for us, it was like we got to get bands, and we wanted to do something we wanted to do. So Straight from the Path, old friends, and a band that I love. They're opening the night. And then Bad Omens is two of four. So we replaced Every Time I Die with two bands. And then Spirit Box has had such huge success that they're now they're taking Every Time I Die spot. So we
Wow.
basically got two bands and put them in front of Spirit Box because Spirit Box has had such success.
Yeah, they've been ripping it up, that's for sure.
Yeah, which I think a lot of people are excited to see them. So I think it's cool that they're doing um, that direct support slot. And I think Bad Omens is releasing an album on the tour, which is super great. And Straight from the Path is just like a Rage Against the Machine, crazy energy thing. And they're old friends, and we're super excited to see them and hang out with them. So I think it's going to be great. People are really excited. I thought today, it was announced this morning. I was like, we're going to get fucking crucified. Like, just because everyone wanted to see Every Time I Die, which is fine. Not any disrespect to the two other bands, but people are really excited, and people are like as excited about this, which I'm really thankful for. And I think fans know that like it's not like we don't have a choice, in terms of like Every Time I Died not being there. Like they straight up broke up, like deleted their social media, like wiped
Yeah.
it. So, and I haven't talked to any of them either, just so the public knows. I don't know what's going on. So I know it's done, like done. But I
Yeah.
don't know other than, it was very just here it is. Good luck, So
Yeah, we're not speculating here, so I don't want to get that shitstorm sent at me at
I can't
all.
even we can't even fucking speculate because I don't know. So
Right, right.
like I don't and it's not like me being like, like they just like had differences. I have no clue.
Yeah.
Like I've heard 1,000 stories and they're all the same ones you can read. So it's like, you know, Keith left and then the band quit and then he quit and whatever's out there is out there and it's all cryptic and fucking strange. Um,
And it's just like your album, you don't know what's real and you don't know what's fake.
yep.
Well,
Maybe they broke into. I'm just kidding. Oh no, you froze.
I know. What the hell's going on? I hate
There
the
you go.
internet.
You're back.
Wait, I'm back.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
It looks like you're crammed in a storage room. That's probably
Yeah,
why.
they gave me. I'm a 6'3", and they gave me a stool that's about this tall off the ground, so I'm kind of crouched down, and yeah, but that's just the way the world works. So
Yeah,
what
I
can we
mean,
do?
I'm super stoked for how it turned out, and I'm super thankful that people.
I
You're back.
I froze. I'm sorry. This is I've
It's not your fault.
of all the internets that could have been gone today. Today's the worst day. So, but it's all right. Let's just wrap up before we lose all Wi-Fi and can't talk anymore. So,
Oh, let's go.
yeah, Aaron, man, it's amazing to talk to you. I'm
Yeah,
gonna check your show out. I think you're playing in Minneapolis at like the Fillmore or something. So I'm gonna
I'm not
drive.
sure.
Who knows?
Whatever you do, you do.
Yeah, I'll be there, and I can't wait. It's gonna be awesome. So thank you, and we'll see
Pumped.
you later.
See you, buddy.